Hi, and welcome to Drupal Brief. This is an AI-generated brief of another video, podcast, or blog post. If you want to learn more about what's being discussed here, then please go check out the source. This podcast is produced by the team at Drupal Forge. We would love to create more AI-generated briefs like this. Please contact Salim Lakhani on Drupal Slack or LinkedIn and let him know what else you want us to cover. Oh, and if you have not tried Drupal Forge yet, you're missing out. You'll be able to do twice as much in half the time. So go check it out. Okay, that's it. Make sure to click subscribe. And here we go.
Okay, so welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're going to kind of jump headfirst into all the stuff that's happening in the Drupal world.
Right.
And we're basing this off of the current issue of the Weekly Drop newsletter, issue 675, March 27, 2025.
Okay.
Now, if you're the kind of person who likes to be informed quickly and you want to understand what's going on in the field thoroughly, you're in the right place.
Absolutely.
This is it, because we're going to extract, all the good stuff, the key insights, and give you an understanding of what's important right now.
We're going to get you up to speed quickly.
Yeah, without you having to wade through, all the
noise.
Yeah, all the noise, all the fluff, all that stuff.
Yeah. The Weekly Drop is a fantastic source for that. It's almost like a pulse on what's going on in Drupal.
Yeah.
So it covers everything from, the core, software changes to the discussions that are happening on what's important in the community.
Right.
And it's really a valuable resource.
Yeah.
We're going to distill it all down for you. So by the end of this, you should really have like a very clear and comprehensive picture of what's going on in Drupal.
Okay.
Like right now.
So let's get right to it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Drupal core.
Okay.
There's a note about the deprecation of node mark.
Yeah.
And you might be wondering, what does that even do?
Right.
And essentially, it's a function that marks content as new or read for a user.
That's right. It's a way to keep track of, what's new, what's fresh, what's been seen.
Right.
And deprecation, may sound like technical jargon, but it's actually a very healthy sign for a platform, for it to be able to evolve. It's almost like the system saying, hey, we found a more efficient, modern way to handle this,
right.
So we're going to kind of phase this whole thing out.
Right.
And that leads to, a lot cleaner code. It makes it more robust, and it forces people to adapt to the new ways.
Right.
But in the long run, it's better for the platform.
Right. And this actually speaks to a larger shift in core itself towards more event-driven and granular ways of tracking content.
Right.
It makes sense.
It does. It needs to be more scalable. It needs to be able to be more personalized.
Right.
In real time and stuff like that. So this is a very positive move.
Yeah. You got to keep moving forward.
That's right.
Now, another core update is that the admin theme is now the default theme.
Yeah.
When you're editing content and creating content.
That's right.
And that sounds like it could really change the day-to-day for people who are, managing websites.
It could definitely affect that.
Right.
The admin themes are designed
to
be more efficient, to be more usable.
Yeah.
And so making that the default, it's a focus on streamlining those workflows. Making it more intuitive for people to create content, to organize their information.
Right.
It might be a different look and feel for some people, but the goal is to improve the experience.
Yeah.
Overall.
Okay. Next up, we have a sponsor spotlight featuring Tag 1.
Yeah.
And their offering called D7ES.
Okay.
Which is Drupal 7 extended support.
Yeah.
And this is interesting because it's 2025.
Right.
And we're still talking about Drupal 7.
It's still out there.
Which officially reached its end of life quite some time ago.
That's right.
But
what it really shows is that there is still a need for it. Running unsupported software, and especially when it's like your CMS.
Right.
Right. That's like the backbone of your website.
It's the foundation.
It's very risky. You open yourself up to security vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
And so this is a really crucial safety net for people who haven't made that leap to the newer version.
Right.
And it also shows just how difficult it is for some people to make that jump.
Right.
These big upgrades are really complex and can be pretty resource intensive.
It's a huge deal, especially for like a big organization.
Right.
All right. So we also see some releases mentioned.
Yeah.
Custom Field 315.
Yep.
And Lando V3 243.
Oh, nice.
And these might seem like minor versions, but they actually represent constant improvement.
That's right.
that's happening within the Drupal ecosystem.
Yeah, these point releases, as they're called, they're small increments,
Right.
but they're constantly improving things.
Right.
So custom field, probably added some new features, patched some bugs,
Yeah.
refined how we handle unique data in Drupal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just so the listener is aware, custom fields are the way that you add like specific information
Right.
to different types of content.
That's right.
Like if you had a product, you might have a color field.
Right, exactly.
Something like that, right?
Yeah. And Lando, that's a very popular local development environment.
Oh, yeah.
So, any update to that means developers have, new enhancements,
Right.
new capabilities in their workflow. So it makes things a lot easier.
And Lando is what Drupal developers use to actually build the site on their own computer before they push it live.
Yeah, it's like a simulated environment.
Right.
So you can build the site locally.
Exactly.
And it has everything it needs.
And it's a really great tool.
It is. It's very valuable.
Okay, so we also have a couple of tutorials that were highlighted in the newsletter.
Oh, cool.
One is about adding sidebars to the Radix space theme.
Okay.
And that sounds like pretty practical guidance for developers who are working on, the front end of their sites.
Absolutely. Like if they want to
make it look good.
Yeah, make it look good and add, a sidebar for navigation or information.
Yeah.
Yeah, Radix is a very popular base theme for Drupal. So, understanding how to customize that is a valuable skill.
It's a good starting point.
Yeah, it is.
And then there's a tutorial introducing Smart Linker AI, which is an AI-powered tool for managing internal links.
Interesting.
In your Drupal website.
So this is really the future of content management.
It feels like it, right?
Yeah.
Integrating AI into,
I think so.
What we do day to day.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
Right.
What I find fascinating about this one is that it's such a fundamental thing.
Yeah.
Internal linking.
Right. Internal linking is huge for SEO.
That's right.
Right.
Search engine optimization.
Like how Google finds your site.
Exactly how Google finds your site and how your visitors navigate your site.
Yeah.
So it's a very crucial part of, building a good website.
Right.
And the idea that, AI can start to help us with this.
Yeah.
To automate it, to optimize it. It's very compelling. Gives us a glimpse into, what AI could potentially do for content creators and website administrators, freeing up their time to focus on other more strategic things.
Yeah, I like to think of AI as helping humans do their job better.
That's a good way to look at it.
Not replacing the human.
Right, augmenting our capabilities.
Right.
Not taking them over. So yeah, it's a really exciting development.
Okay, let's talk about events. DrupalCon Atlanta 2025 was obviously a major highlight.
It was a huge event.
Yeah, and the newsletter mentioned the Dries Note.
Yeah.
And just so the listener is aware, the Dries Note is the keynote address given by Dries Bytart, who is the original creator of Drupal.
That's right.
And this is always a key moment for, understanding where the project is headed.
Yeah, it sets the tone for the year, outlines the strategic priorities, big trends in the community.
Yeah.
A lot of announcements happen there.
Right.
So, if you're involved in Drupal at all, like this is what you pay attention to.
This is what you need to know.
Yeah. To see what's coming up.
Okay. There's also a mention of the coolest marketing move at the event.
Yeah.
Now that sounds like something that really stood out.
Right.
Even though I don't know the specifics.
Yeah, it makes you curious.
Yeah.
What was it?
Yeah.
Sometimes these innovative and memorable things that happen at these events.
Right.
They can spark discussions.
Yeah.
They can even influence, best practices.
Right.
It shows that the Drupal community isn't just focused on code.
Yeah.
There's a lot of creativity. Marketing is a big part of it.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious to find out what this move was.
I hope they reveal it in the next issue.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we have Wim Leers.
Oh, yeah.
A very well-known and respected figure in the Drupal world.
Absolutely.
There's a mention of his presentation called XB at DrupalCon Atlanta 2025.
Uh-huh.
And XB Week 30 HTML comments.
Yeah.
So that sounds like a deep dive.
It does.
Into some very specific and probably technical contributions that he's making.
Yeah. Wim's work is often focused on performance and architecture.
Right. Okay.
So I'm sure those sessions went into some really, intricate detail of what he's working on.
Right.
And, offering insight for people who are working on complex applications.
Yeah.
Or people who are really concerned with speed and efficiency.
And for the listener who might not know, XB is all about...
So XB is this project that's about improving the rendering pipeline in Drupal.
Yeah.
Which is how, we take the data and turn it into the web pages you actually see.
Right.
So it's very important, and I'm sure he was explaining the technical details of that.
Yeah.
And the potential benefits for Drupal performance.
Yeah.
Which is a big deal.
Even something like HTML comments can be really important.
It can be, yeah.
In understanding how Drupal renders things.
Yeah, how it interacts with those front-end technologies.
Right.
Potentially even affecting things like accessibility or debugging.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's all connected.
Right.
It all matters.
Okay, so let's move on to some of the more thought-provoking articles that were highlighted in this issue.
All right.
Josh Koenig's piece on the generation gap.
Yeah.
And the JAMStack question really caught my eye.
Oh, interesting.
He asks, why aren't there more young people at events like DrupalCon and WordCamp?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, that's a question that, a lot of people are asking.
Right.
Especially when it comes to these open source projects.
Right.
It's important for the community to have a good mix of experience and, new ideas.
Yeah.
And youth.
Like fresh blood.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's an important question.
Yeah. And his main argument is that the newer generation of developers is primarily focused on JavaScript.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
And JavaScript tools and tool chains.
Yeah, he's calling it a tectonic shift in the industry.
Yeah.
Towards this HTML, CSS, JavaScript stack for building user interfaces. And that's definitely been a huge trend in the last few years.
Right.
The rise of these JavaScript frameworks like React, Vue.js.
Yeah.
They've really changed the game.
They've changed how we build websites.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And
so he's highlighting the implications of that for the Drupal ecosystem.
Right.
Which traditionally, has been more of a integrated back-end and front-end system.
Right.
So it's an interesting question to consider.
Yeah. And just to let the listener know, JAMStack stands for JavaScript APIs and Markup.
That's right.
And it's it's an architectural approach.
Right.
That's really based on, client-side JavaScript for dynamic stuff.
Yeah.
Reusable APIs for the back end.
That's right.
And pre-built markup for base performance.
It's very popular these days.
Yeah.
And it's definitely influencing, how people build sites.
Right.
Even if they're using Drupal.
Right.
Or other traditional CMSs.
Right. And he includes this quote, "Software is eating the world, and the teeth are made of DOM elements."
That's a great quote.
I know. It really captures it, right?
It does. It really captures, this idea that the front end, the part that people see and interact with is becoming more and more central to how we develop software.
Right.
And DOM elements, that's the document object model. Mm-hmm. That's what JavaScript manipulates to create those dynamic interfaces that we all love.
And it really underscores the importance of, the Drupal community to adapt.
That's right.
To, this new way of building the front end.
That's right. To think about how Drupal can best integrate and interact with these new front-end paradigms.
Right.
Because they're not going away.
Yeah. And if you're listening to this, you need to know that this is a really important trend to watch.
Absolutely.
Right.
This is going to shape the future of Drupal.
Yeah. Okay, so another major theme in this newsletter is AI.
AI is everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Right.
It's unavoidable these days.
And there are multiple articles covering everything from how to get Drupal AI for free to using AI to generate alt text for images, crafting an AI strategy if you're a digital agency.
Interesting.
The idea that AI in CMS is a power tool.
Yeah.
Not an autopilot.
Right.
And of course, we've already talked about Smart Linker AI.
And so it really shows, AI isn't just a buzzword in the Drupal community.
Yeah.
It's here. It's being used. It's being developed.
It's being integrated.
And there's a lot of interest in it.
Right.
From free tools to strategic considerations to practical applications like accessibility, automation. It's a multifaceted integration.
Yeah.
And I think that point about AI being a power tool, not an autopilot, is crucial.
It is.
It's not about replacing human expertise.
Right.
It's about supporting it.
Right.
And I think that's going to be a big differentiator for Drupal.
Yeah, as things move forward.
Okay, so we also have a discussion around how content cloud platforms are changing the landscape of headless Drupal development. Yeah. And just so the listener might know.
Okay.
Headless Drupal essentially means separating the front end, what the visitor sees, from the back end,
That's right.
where the content is managed.
Yeah.
So you can think of Drupal as like the data warehouse.
Yeah.
And then other applications can be the storefronts
That's a good way to look at it.
to display that data.
Right. So Drupal is just delivering the content through APIs.
Through an API, right.
To these other applications.
And those other applications could be anything. They could be like a React app.
Exactly.
Or they could be a mobile app.
A mobile app.
Yeah.
Digital signage.
Yeah, anything.
Right.
Anything.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on how Content Cloud platforms?
So I think they're definitely influencing, this architecture.
Yeah.
They're providing solutions for content delivery, for workflow management.
Yeah.
And even hosting.
Yeah.
So it's another example of how these trends, are really shaping what we do
Right.
in Drupal.
Okay. Then there's this interesting viewpoint that I saw, which is an article that asks, is it time for DXP to rest in peace?
Oh, wow.
And this is by Dominique de Kuman.
Okay.
And it sounds like he's arguing that their time might have come and gone.
Huh.
Now, DXP stands for Digital Experience Platform.
Yeah.
And a DXP is essentially...
So it's basically like a suite of technologies that try to manage the entire customer experience.
Yeah, across all these different touch points.
That's right.
Right.
From, content creation to management to data to personalization.
Right.
It's the whole package.
Yeah.
It's very ambitious.
It is.
But, it can get complex and it can be expensive.
Yeah. And so the fact that someone is questioning their future suggests that maybe it's not working.
It suggests that there might be challenges with the current model.
Right.
Or that there are alternative approaches that are more effective.
Right.
Or more efficient. Or
simpler.
Yeah, simpler.
Right.
Or modular.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that even these well-established ideas, they're constantly being reevaluated.
They can change.
Yeah.
Right.
Technology never stands still.
Okay. Shifting gears a bit.
All right.
There's an article titled, Why Choose Drupal for Your Blogging Website in 2025?
Okay.
Now, it's kind of nice to see, a focus on Drupal being relevant for something as straightforward as a blog.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to think of Drupal as,
enterprise.
This big enterprise system,
big complex websites.
But it has a lot of strengths, in terms of security, scalability, flexibility.
Yeah.
So it's a good reminder that it can be used for all sorts of things.
Right.
Even something like a blog.
Yeah. And I've always loved that about Drupal is that you can build anything with it.
You can.
It's really just a matter of...
your imagination.
Yeah. And how much time.
Right. And resources.
Like money you have.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the key.
Okay, so then we also see several mentions of Drupal integration with cloud platforms like AWS, GCP, and Azure.
Yeah, this is kind of a given these days.
It's a given, but it's still important to acknowledge.
Of course.
Right.
These cloud platforms, they're the infrastructure for most modern web applications.
It's where we host our stuff.
Right. So Drupal needs to work seamlessly with them so that we can deploy our sites and manage them reliably and at scale.
Yeah.
So it's a good sign that, Drupal is staying current and keeping up with these broader trends in the industry.
Here's an intriguing one.
All right.
Why Drupal is a shark. Now, apparently this article has been updated according to the newsletter.
So it's still relevant?
Yeah, I guess so.
I think analogies like this can be really powerful.
Yeah.
To communicate an idea in a memorable way.
Right.
So the idea of Drupal being a shark, it suggests that it's adaptable, resilient, still a dominant force, in certain areas of the web.
Right.
And the fact that it's been updated, means that those reasons are still valid.
Right.
Or maybe even stronger now.
Right.
So I'm curious to read that updated article.
Me too. We also have a question posed in German.
Okay.
Warum verwenden wir nicht GraphQL?
Okay.
Now, for the listener who doesn't speak German, that means why aren't we using GraphQL?
Yeah.
And this is obviously in the context of Drupal.
Right. So this shows, there's discussion happening in the community about modern data fetching and APIs.
Right.
So GraphQL is this alternative to traditional REST APIs.
Yeah.
It's more flexible. It's more efficient in how it handles data requests.
Yeah, and the good way to think about GraphQL is it's like ordering exactly what you want from a restaurant menu
Well, that's a good analogy.
instead of being limited to like set meals.
Right.
So with GraphQL, you're literally saying...
You're saying, I want this, this, and this, and nothing else.
And I don't need all that other stuff.
Right. So it reduces unnecessary data transfer.
Yeah.
Makes things faster.
Yeah.
And it's very appealing to a lot of developers.
Right.
So it's good that this conversation is happening in the Drupal community.
Right.
Because it shows that, people are thinking about these things.
Yeah.
And trying to find the best ways to build modern applications.
Especially if you're decoupled.
Yeah, especially if you're decoupled, where the front end and back end are separate.
Right.
That's where GraphQL really shines.
Okay, so VL Suite by MetaDrop is mentioned as a tool specifically for creating web pages quickly in Drupal.
Oh, nice.
And that sounds like something aimed at boosting efficiency.
That's right.
And making Drupal more accessible.
Yeah, tools like this
Yeah.
are really valuable.
Yeah.
They can speed up the development process,
Right.
make it easier to build sites, iterate on them.
Faster.
Faster.
Yeah. Right.
And that's good for everyone.
Right.
It makes Drupal more attractive.
Yeah.
It makes it easier to use.
So a wider range of projects.
Yeah.
Right.
The people who maybe don't have as much technical expertise.
Yeah.
So it's a good development.
Okay, so the stark reminder about Drupal 7 end of life is there again.
Yeah, it's still there.
It's not going away.
It's not going away.
Right.
It's still a problem.
This time there's an offer from Oputicy for a free audit.
Okay.
So if you are still on Drupal 7, for whatever reason,
take advantage of that.
Take advantage of that.
It's free.
It's free.
You can get an understanding of.
Find out how screwed you are.
Yeah, of where you're at.
Right.
What your vulnerabilities are.
Yeah.
What you need to do to migrate to a newer version.
Yeah. Okay, and then finally,
Right.
we see a mention of the Talking Drupal podcast,
All right.
featuring an episode on AI and EDU.
Ooh, interesting.
Meaning AI in education.
So it's a wide range of topics.
Yeah.
Even a podcast that's focused on Drupal is branching out and talking about, different industries.
Yeah.
Like education.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, and how AI is playing a role in that.
Yeah.
It just shows, the reach of Drupal.
Yeah.
And the diversity of the community, the interests of the people involved.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating.
So bringing it all together,
Right.
there are some clear themes emerging from this week's The Weekly Drop.
Yeah.
We're seeing the continuous evolution of Drupal core.
That's right.
With things like the node mark deprecation, the new default admin theme. There's a massive and growing presence of AI.
Absolutely.
Being integrated into everything.
Yeah.
We're seeing these ongoing and important discussions about the future of front-end technologies, the headless approach to building websites.
Right.
And
it's a very exciting time
yes.
to be involved in Drupal.
Yeah.
There's so much happening.
It feels like it's moving really fast.
It is. It's changing rapidly.
Right.
And it's important to stay on top of it.
Yeah. And that's why the Weekly Drop is so great.
It is. It's a valuable resource.
Because it distills all this down for us.
Into a manageable format.
Right.
Yeah.
So hopefully this deep dive has given you a good understanding.
Yeah, I hope so.
Of what's going on in Drupal.
Absolutely.
It should have saved you a lot of time.
Yeah.
And make sure you're up to date.
That's right.
On the key trends.
And the conversations that are happening that are shaping the future of the platform.
Yeah. So here's a final thought for you to consider.
Okay.
All right. What did you think? Did the AI-generated thing work for you? Let us know. Anyway, to close off this podcast, I just wanted to remind you that this brief was a fully AI-generated summary, and we take no credit for the original content. If you want more AI-generated summaries like this, then let us know. Contact Salim Lakhani on Drupal Slack or LinkedIn. By the way, we're automating the entire process from start to finish, so these briefs can be generated hands-free and on schedule. You want something else covered? We're happy to do it for you. This brief was brought to you by Drupal Forge. Drupal Forge is the new #1 platform to try, demo, and develop Drupal sites, and it is completely free to use. It is a community-supported, non-profit platform run by volunteers, just like yourself. Come join us.